Welcome to Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. I don't know which number it is. I think it's like 23 or so, even though it says 21 on the live feed because I got to change some stuff on my computer. I pulled this one out of nowhere. Big special thanks to KTM. They have me up here at and a bunch of other journalists up here at the round of the WORCS race in Grays Harbor, Washington. We're testing the 2020 TPI fuel-injected bikes. So they have 300 XCW, 250 XCW, and the all-new 150 XCW, which is a TPI bike. And then also, brand new for 2020 is the 250 and 300 XC. So now they've kind of moved the TPI in the two-stroke range over to their, more, competition race XC bike. So that's what they have the journalists up here riding. Today I rode 300 XCW and did a short stint aboard a 250 XC. And tomorrow morning I'm going to ride the 150 XCW. So that's kind of what I'm up here doing. But even bigger thanks to them because they loaned me what they call a cradle, which is their internet booster thing. Because where I'm at, I wasn't able to get the kind of bandwidth I needed, and now I have the bandwidth so I can hang out and talk to you guys. So I put up a little bit of a post earlier to ask some questions. I got some good questions, and I went to the guys and got you the answers, or at least the correct answers, so I can answer those. And then, like usual, I will run through my gamut of questions that you guys ask live. So when I say put your questions in the comments on the chat board, put your questions in the comments of the chat board, and then I will scroll down and try to answer those to the best of my ability. Tonight's broadcast is also brought to you by Hams, the beer refreshing. That's what I'm going to enjoy right now since I'm done racing. And then we'll pull the tequila out from underneath the table and see what we got. Might have some. I was looking to get a special guest in here, but I was a little hesitant because my setup's so screwed up, and just pulling this stuff out of nowhere. So yeah, no special guest. I got the Dust Bunny. Hold on one second. I got the motorhome Dust Bunny. So yeah, I do have a co-host. He'll hang out right here. Make sure I don't do anything wrong. Maybe he'll get drunk and fall out of his chair. So let's get right to it. I have the KTM TPI questions, and actually, let me just kind of tell you a little bit about kind of the bikes in general. So TPI is KTM's version of fuel-injected two-stroke, and it's pretty unique in that TPI stands for transfer port injection. So they're not injecting it through like inside of the throttle body or pre-reed valve. They're actually direct. It's not direct inject because that would come in through the cylinder head, or that's the way it is. They're injecting the fuel into the transfer ports, and it's a technology that they patented, and they spent a lot of time working on it because and we have a really good kind of historical test about on dirt bike test about how they kind of came up with this particular plan and why they did it that way. And from what I can tell, they're onto something, and they've patented enough around it, and that's why you're not seeing other manufacturers kind of jump on this kind of trend. There's been fuel-injected two-strokes in all different, like in the scooter market and a lot of different things, but not in the performance realm. And what makes this interesting is that they've kind of expanded to the XC line, which is, racing, and they still have not put it on the SX, which means it's probably not ready for the SX. The SX in 2020 is still carbureted. So it's evolving and it's growing, and I think they're learning quite a bit as they go along this path. And there is probably the one big change to the motors, or the kind of the computer controlled part of the XC line and XCW line, or the whole TPI, is that they have a new sensor that's an ambient air pressure sensor that is added into the system. So now it's reading off of two pressure sensors, one that's in the crankcase and one that's just taking air pressure, kind of like they do on the four-strokes. And it's funny, just in the last few weeks, I've been getting a lot of questions about the jetting on the two-strokes, and have I experienced any problems? And I hadn't previous to this, and I've ridden one from like literally in a single ride from 600 feet elevation up to 7,800 feet, and had no issues with the altitude and stuff. And then, but I've had some people say, hey, I was climbing up some steep hills and I had some stuff go wrong. I've had my bike seem like it got really lean under weird circumstances. Other people said their bike got really rich and didn't run that well. And so we've had a few different questions. In fact, today I also got my hands on a JD jetting tuner for the KTM TPI bikes, which I plan to play with and see how that works out. So lots of stuff going on. I'll like I said, I'll kind of get to some of the questions and that'll answer it. But so I rode 50A on the 300 XCW, and kind of in the beginning I was like, I don't know if I want to ride. I'd rather ride XC because it's more of a race. It's a WORCS race, and that's probably if you were to just say what's the best bike for it, that would probably be my go-to. But the motocross section is actually pretty short, and the trees and the woods is probably 85% of the course. And even when you're out in the kind of the back field here and stuff, it's pretty traction is pretty limited. There's a lot of rolly rocks on top, and it's kind of puffy dirt and it's pretty slippery. In fact, in this morning when we were doing our unclassified race, which is essentially a practice, I slid the bike out 3 times and just kind of pushing and trying to find traction. And so in the end, I think XCW is kind of like a secret weapon, especially the 300, because I can ride it a gear high and just lug it everywhere. And it doesn't sound very fast. In fact, it makes very little noise, but it hooks up and hauls ass. So pretty good result. Actually won the 50A class overall, whatever race it was that I was in, and had to ride an extra lap than everybody else because I went too fast. So that's my problem. But overall had a pretty good time. So I am going to run into the questions. So Peter Lewis. It's almost like my name. It's spelled really weird. Asks, what are the changes that make it possible to use a standard spark plug on the 2020 models? So I just saw my race bike for tomorrow go riding by my motorhome. We'll see if maybe we'll have a special guest. You never know. What are the changes? I don't know. I know that the bike has the last few years had a very unique special spark plug, and I'd asked about it, and they said it had something to do with the tip. Was it necessary? And they said, nah, you can run the normal one, but sometimes they're adjusting the height. Actually, the expert's going to roll in here and answer that question right now.
Where's the tacos, Jimmy? It's Taco Tuesday.
There's no tacos. So I got David O'Connor from KTM. Don't touch any of the equipment because it's very fragile. I want to shake the camera. Just say hi to the fans out there.
I'm down here. Oh, wow.
Right there. Here, scoot over. I'm going to scoot over. Because we have the question, what makes it possible? What changes make it possible to use the standard spark plug on the 2020 models?
What do you mean by the standard spark plug?
Well, because you know how you had the last spark plug in the old one was a really special spark, very expensive spark plug. He says, what changes that make it possible? Is it still a special spark plug?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. Okay. Same spark plug.
But you can use a standard one.
We haven't ever tried. It's recommended one. Yeah.
So you should use the recommended one.
Well, you guys can try it and then get back with Jimmy, and Jimmy can give me the info. As a manufacturer, we stick to what's recommended.
So you're supposed
Jimmy's the one that does the trial and error stuff, and he tells me he seizes or broke his bike.
I know.
So let Jimmy be the test.
Did you put the dented pipe on my bike so I can go dent it later?
No, they're all dented.
Yeah. But it's the same size and shape. They're not repositioning the electrode.
No.
In anything kind of crazy. It's just like resistor, maybe
resistor mainly,
heat range. So okay, let's see, don't miss Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. Does the XC have different mapping than the XCW?
Same mapping,
exactly the same. So and that's something I found interesting. I thought that the XC would have like a more aggressive setting, and today we did ride the bikes in the more aggressive
so the bike comes in the more aggressive map, and underneath the gas tank there's the white plug which unplugs, and that makes it the more mellow map. There's also the power part switch which will plug into there, and then it can be a switch on your handlebar.
So you can do it on the fly.
It's
just an accessory.
Exactly. It's in our power parts catalog.
So and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. Like the bikes, and even Cole Kirkpatrick just took it out for a photo shoot, and he was like blown away because he spent a lot of time on last year's 300, and he was blown away by actually what he was calling like the power of the bike, the 300. And I noticed it specifically on the 250 that I rode. Like it's pretty aggressive. I I would like a little more aggression in the aggression map, and maybe if I don't know what the mellow map is, I haven't had a chance to ride it, but in the mellow map, if it were a little closer to what the aggressive map is, but who knows? I have to plug it in. I can't really comment on it until I try it, but I will.
Yeah, we'll get Jimmy to try. We're back again tomorrow for more races. Jimmy can try it out.
I'm only doing like half of one race.
That's okay. That's enough for Jimmy to test. Jimmy's a good test rider. He'll know exactly what's going on within a lap. Yeah. Yeah.
What happens if the power valve is changed or adjusted on a TPI bike?
So I'm going to go back to our recommendations. It's set in one position. We don't want people adjusting it, but there you go, Jimmy, and everybody else is going to try that anyway. Like it's the car bike, everybody adjusted for different hit of the power. But
the car bike, it was amazing what the springs, the ones you changed, or just the adjustment would do. I mean, you could dial it into just a bike that just bogged the whole the whole time, and you could make it kind of aggressive and snappy.
Yeah. So being a manufacturer, we've stuck to the recommendation of sticking it the way it is. But of course, people always play with and tamper with stuff. So let
tamper, I like that word.
Let Jimmy know how it works too. Also, and if Jimmy finds out it's good, he can pass the information on rather than KTM.
Does that bike come in the little kit? Does it come with different springs?
No. So there's no. It's not like the carb bike. Yeah. So there's no different adjustable springs for your power valve governor.
In the manual, and I know this from playing with the old one, that it's way more sensitive than the old bike used to be. And it's like when I changed it, it changed the power, changed the power delivery a little bit. But it was also like I wanted to change the jetting, which I can't do.
Yeah.
And just even in talking to you guys, how you're milling the top of the, making sure the power valve adjustment and the port timing is perfect.
Yeah.
It kind of leads to it, and I like to look at the manual and see what the manual says about adjusting the.
It says not to adjust.
It says not to adjust. It says it's set perfect from the factory.
Exactly.
Well, there you go.
They even have like a little orange paint mark on to kind of show that it wasn't, I'll say, tampered with. But it's the first thing a dealer will look at if they go in and something's running bad. They'll kind of set that back to the perfect position and kind of go from there to troubleshoot. But there is people adjusting stuff. Haven't done it myself.
And it's not a little bit of paint. It's not like a little bit of paint. Like when I look at it's a lot of paint.
Yeah,
like you'll break the seal.
Yeah, exactly. You'll break the seal, and then that's something people can set back to stock at a dealer for troubleshooting.
Okay. Your opinion on, let's see here. I need to get this, view 2 more comments. Here we go. Let's see. Your opinion on, wow, we're getting more questions already on this. Your opinion on oil injection, modernized. Best thing ever.
Best thing ever, yeah.
Yeah, no more mixing gas, just pour it in there and
the oil tank should be able to do, depending on riding, but roughly 5 gas tanks, so you could be out stuck on a trail, you have your buddy with a 4-stroke, like, hey, let's tip that bike over and get some gas, there's no worrying about mixing oil, it's just an easy, clean system.
4-strokes run fine on 2-stroke gas.
No, but the vice versa. If you need to steal some...
Oh, you can steal your 4-stroke.
Exactly, you're not worrying about it. It's got the mixture. Yeah.
I did a calculation last night on, at 5 tanks, 5 tanks of fuel at the rate, with the how many liters it was in there, the 0.6 liter or 0.7 liters. It's like literally, it's almost averaging out at that, almost 80 to 1.
Yeah,
would be
exactly. So it changes when the bike's at idle, off the throttle position sensor. It'll do different measurement from when the TPS is wide open. So it calculates and works out what's the best performance and oil mixture.
And the coolest thing is, we're out doing photos, last night, and we're just idling around in first gear just doing photos. And usually when you're doing that on a 2-stroke, you come around and you go brap to do your little photo, and you leave a big old puff of smoke.
Yeah, exactly.
None.
It's all loaded up, and you got to clean it out if you're just playing around, riding it. It's just responsive. We could let the bike idle, cold day, let it warm up for even 10 minutes, and then as soon as you get on the gas, it's not blah, 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 blah. It's just clean, snappy straight away.
And you don't get the ding, ding, ding.
Yeah,
it's the weirdest. It's the weirdest.
Like the old 500 ding, ding, ding noise.
It used to be where that's how you could tell, hey, is my bike jet, especially on the pilot jet in the idle circuit, is it good? It wouldn't, if you didn't have the ding, ding, which I hate because it pushes the bike into the turn sometimes. Fuel injector relocation. So I think what he's asking about that is, did you... The injectors are still in the exact same position.
Same position, yeah. So the engine itself has tilted 1 degree. That was more for handling performance, get a little more weight on the front tire. But the injector is in the same position in the cylinder.
And then he asks XCW versus XC chassis handling, and I can tell you there is definitely a difference. the XC has the air fork.
Yeah.
And I could feel that it was lighter. It was just a little bit lighter on the front, the feeling, but and the bike I rode only had like 2 hours on it, and it felt like it needed to be a little bit.
So the air fork for sure, like when they're new, takes about 5 hours to get like broken in suspension. Yeah. We pretty much had like about an hour on them before the press event. We don't want to have them looking, used old, so we try to keep them as nice as possible.
Till we ride them.
Yeah, till you ride them. So air fork definitely around 5 hours. You'll get a lot more comfort and movement out of them. Initially, they got some break-in period. Same even with engine, transmission, everything 5 hours, like a sweet spot once it's broken in. But Explorer fork definitely is a different setup. A lot more comfort on smaller bumps. The Moto track maybe not as much hold up as the exact.
And there was a double jump, and I was telling you I wasn't going to jump it, and I went ahead and hucked it, and it was no problem.
Yeah.
And it was like I was worried about, and you think about it, like XCW is really not for motocross.
No, it's not at all. That's not what the bike was designed for.
And XC is, but so I'll when I talk about the bikes a little bit later, when I go into detail, I'll talk about the difference between the two and what I felt. Do the new TPI bikes have better low-end torque? Yes. My 2019 300 XCW TPI does not have the low-end torque of the formerly carbureted 300 XCW. So I'm going to disagree with that. I think it has the low-end torque. And what I've noticed is that since when you roll it on, it doesn't go boom and then snap. There's no lag and there's no jetting discrepancies and stuff. Yeah. When you turn it, it responds. And it's kind of the same thing when 4-strokes went fuel injected. Everybody said they don't have any snap, different. They feel slow.
So that was a lot of feedback we got today. We had 9 journalists out today racing, and a lot of people are new to the TPI bike. They've ridden like the carb bike, and it's a different riding style. It's almost like Jimmy says, when we went from carbs on 4-strokes to fuel injection, it just felt different. Like people are thinking maybe I don't have the hit, but people are riding them faster, easier, smoother, better.
I dare you to go ride a carbureted 4-stroke.
That's the thing. Yeah, if you were jumping like 5 laps on your carb bike, 5 on the fuel injection, it's going to take a while to adapt. It's a different riding style, and it definitely comes on. The power's different. Kind of, I'll say, more manageable. Yeah, it's definitely more traction out of it.
Yeah. I totally agree. I like it. I think what people feel a lot of times on the carbureted bikes and why it feels slow is that when you gas it, it takes a second for that carburetor and analog
and then boom, explosion.
To go, and then
the delay, and then boom. Yeah.
So I don't know that it's necessarily torque, but I was blown away by today. I mean, I was making up so much time by just going an extra gear high, not just one, maybe, like 2 gears high, and just rolling it on and going to big throttle openings at pretty low RPMs that would normally, a carburetor wouldn't even handle that.
Yeah.
It would not.
We got a new comment, Jimmy.
I got to go to the other page. These are the comments from before I started the show.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
I'm
gonna have to take off, but Jimmy, as you know, has the answers to all of it. If not, he can ask me tomorrow, and we'll try to get back with you guys next week.
You got cranky journalists that ran.
I do. I have to take it back. Yeah.
I brought my own.
I brought Jimmy another motorcycle to play on tomorrow. So
if you weren't at work, I'd have you reach down below your legs there. Reach down.
Maybe tomorrow even I won't be at work.
Oh yeah. Don't be at work. What do we got down there? What's down there? Yeah, that's bad.
Oh, it's Taco Tuesday. He's got his tequila.
Yeah, I don't have any tacos, but I do have.
I came here for tacos, but he's got tequila.
Well, when you're not at work tomorrow,
false advertisement. Taco Tuesday.
We'll talk about this. Yeah, it says malo right on it, which means bad, I think. So, anyways, thanks for stopping by and dropping off my race bike for tomorrow.
Enjoy the review with Jimmy. He'll have lots of good information on it. So.
Yeah. And thanks to KTM for providing with the internet connection. So,
see you guys.
Well, here's the banger question: why is KTM the only manufacturer where none of the factory riders ride the stock shock and forks? Why can't they fit cone valves to the stock bike? The design is very simple.
Well, most race teams are.
I don't like cone valves. I don't go fast enough.
But most teams anyway are doing so the cone valves are part of the pro components for WP, and it's just an upgrade of everybody buys an exhaust system, and that's an upgrade. Our bikes come with FMF exhaust systems, even though they come with a perfectly good stock one. It's just a lot of manufacturers are doing that. We're not the only one that has our pro components.
Yeah,
if you look at Pro Circuit, they got their Showa A-Kid, Star, Yamaha, all the teams, they have an upgraded suspension.
I know. I think almost every factory team where the factory riders, I think they're all on special stuff, and even if it has the appearance, more appearance of stock stuff, most of them don't. But I think what he's asking
and
is
our
why
suspension
is
actually is available. You contact like a WP authorized sender.
Yeah, you can buy
They
that.
have the cone valve. You can
yeah.
get pretty much the same setting as Taylor Roberts. None of it's a secret. They actually share a lot of their feedback from our test department with our authorized senders. So you can go buy a fork and shock like Taylor Roberts, set it up the same. But I don't know if you're going to go fast enough to make it work like Taylor. We can all have fast guy suspension, but we have to see if it works for our ability.
And not to toot your horn about this, like KTM is funny because they're pushing this whole ready to race thing, and I think that's part. That's been the company thing. And so what do? They bring the journalists up and they kind of make us race the bike. So we're kind of proving. And like that bike. So today I just took a stock bike. I had 2 laps around on it.
Set sag for Jimmy, maybe a couple of clickers what he wanted, and
totally
put number plates on, and
totally
he won by about 5 minutes or more.
A class because I'm totally cheating, right? I'll get my ass handed to me in 40A tomorrow. But but it truly was. I mean, we didn't do anything to the bike. You just took it, uncrated it, broke it in, and raced.
We had somebody in the 450A class started off on a 150 XCW. He got a whole shot, checked out, and won on a complete standard bike. And the moto track was pretty jumpy. Like, that bike shouldn't have really been doing good on big jumps.
I think 85% of the course was where the XCW was better.
Exactly.
And, so a 150 won the 450A class.
Yeah.
That's
straight out of the crate. All we did is steady sag and put his bars where he wanted, levers.
Actually,
Jimmy, we did his brake
You got
pedal.
first and third.
Oh yeah, we got a lot of podiums today. That's the commentator today was, wow, you guys are winning. I was like, pure stock.
I'm gonna let you take.
Yeah, better get out of here. Bye, guys.
Whiny journalists to bed. So okay, thank you, David. Okay,
I'll be here in the morning. We'll go sign you up for other classes.
Awesome, thank you. So live as we do it here. I'm going to go back to the questions. I know there's a bunch more. Let's see where we're at. But anyways, David is my press liaison at KTM. And so when we contact them about doing intros or testing bikes, he sets them up, makes sure the bikes are good, and then always tells me to bring it back already. So I was my 300 XCW, which I'm gonna put in my motorhome here and take with me. I'm gonna go riding someplace else to test it on trails. And one of the journalists fell over and smashed a pipe, and I'm like, put that pipe on my bike, so I'm not responsible. So because I hate beating up other people's stuff as well. So scroll down through here. Chris Smith, I answered your question. That's good. Yes, the mapping between the bikes, XC and XCWs, is the same, which kind of, like I said, kind of surprised me. They've definitely gone to the level of making the maps in general, especially the aggressive map, from my recollection, a little bit more aggressive. The 250 actually had kind of a little bit of snap to it, not to the level that you'd want on an SX, but pretty good. Let's see, Mike Haberoth. Let's hear Jared Stock's take on winning the Open A. Well, you have to listen to his podcast. Yeah, he did. I was blown away. I mean, he did the same thing as me. He was going so stinking fast that he had to ride a 5th lap, and they put the checkered flag up for the second place guy because he was so far ahead. But it just speaks to the level of stock bikes. Where they're not all the bikes that we're riding are. They didn't put springs or anything. I was actually thinking about getting springs on the 150 I'm going to ride tomorrow, but Mark Tilley, he's the same size as me, raced that bike and got 3rd in Open A. And I'm like, if Mark can ride it in stock springs, I can ride it too. So I'm going to ride that one tomorrow with stock springs. Pretty good. Let's see. Thanks for doing reviews on the course. Yes. Did I review the course? The course was gnarly. It's actually, I mean, I don't race that much anymore. In fact, I don't like racing because I turn into a Jimmy asshole. So I kind of can't turn that off. But it was fun. I had a really good time today. The KTM guy is by the book. He is. He has to be. He works for the manufacturer, and that's why they. I asked those questions and stuff because you get to hear that's the kind of same answers I get sometimes, but that's part of the reason that they rely on us journalists to go out and try different things and to see how it works, because they can't necessarily do it. And maybe it's okay if if Dirt Bike Test takes it and goes off and plugs, you know, this in or tries this pipe, because in their world, stock is best. I mean, they wouldn't make something if they weren't required by some sort of, you know, standard or emissions or something like that. Or, you know, sometimes they're trying to make a bike work for a wide range of riders, and they have to settle on one thing that's maybe not as good for a heavy guy as it is, you know, for a light guy and stuff like that. So in their book, they're delivering the best thing they can, and so his answers they're not canned. I mean, that's just the way it is. And if I've done development testing and I kind of know what goes into it, and if he was coming and say, you know, it's a lot better if you do this and that, I mean, if it would have been better for everybody, they would have done it. And the power valve question, I know how finicky it was before, and since you can't, quote, jet the fuel injection, if you change the power valve and you want to change the jetting, all of a sudden things are not as good as they, you know, the way that the manufacturer feels that ideally should. So I sometimes I'll spit out the party line, but then I'll tell you what we do to it. So that's why you have to support people like me, so we can go do stuff like this, and then you get a better real world view. Because like I posted in my Twitter book face account or whatever yesterday, you know, they hand us all this press information. So essentially this is all the info about the bike. Everything is in here, you know. Hey, look, there's your WORCS components you can buy for the shock. But they have all the detail, the breakdown drawings, so that we can be more accurate with our information. And half of these guys just grab this thing and they go just like, wow, and they regurgitate it right back out. And because they don't know how it feels. But, you know, kudos to all the guys that came out and rode today and got a real good experience. It was a couple of these guys, you know, first ever off-road race. They were moto guys, and they came and never done off-road. And in that way, they kind of see, like, why these bikes are this way and stuff. And Don Maeda wore moose gear today. Everybody, yeah, go over and tell him he looked good in moose, and he would look better if he had a back canteen on. That's what I would say. I told him that today. I said he looks sweet in that stuff. He does not. David does not need a different shirt. Do the 2020s come with 2 different throttle cams? I don't know. I haven't got the little package. You know, like I said, the bikes are prepped and they're given to us, so I didn't get the little toolkit to see if it's in there. But I don't know. Did they come with that before? I'm not sure. Let's see. Oh, yeah, Tequila might get... I tried. I gave it my best, but he's still on the clock. He's got to deliver whiny journalists back to hotel. Jimmy stays at track and motorhome. Let's see. Did you notice the stiffer frame? Yes. On between the two bikes. Did I notice the stiffer frame? On the XC, I thought I did, but that's like we were talking about. The forks probably still need a little bit of time in them to be kind of broken in. But overall, what I noticed is that the XCW, still with the PDS suspension, still felt that had the planted feel. So, you know, the suspension feels soft, the bike sticks to the ground a little bit more. But unlike, like, usually when you hop on a bike that's that light, and I kid you not that 300 felt so light. It feels like 125 light when you're riding it. The chassis did not feel like stiff, like it makes the two-stroke dance and jar around. It let the bike stay planted. But when I got on the XC, all of a sudden, since the suspension's a little bit stiffer, it did feel that danciness, but it allowed a little bit more precision in the handling. You were a little bit more confident when you're kind of sticking it into a rut, or when you're kind of going across routes. You know, you could feel what was going on, but not in a bad way. And I have bad wrists, and I usually complain about stuff like that. And other than the XC forks needed to be broken in, I thought it was good. I think it's stiffer in a good way, but not like overboard in any way. And it's essentially the same basic chassis as the SX, so it's got kind of a stiff nature to it. Let's see. The 19, Chris asked, the 19 was the easiest to ride two-stroke I've ever ridden. Surprised by how much I like it. I agree. The 20 is even better. The adding that sensor seems like it's helped some stuff. I think a lot of stuff they did with the map really seemed to help. Let's see, Christian Parker. He also fixes the stuff you break. I didn't break anything yet. but yeah, no, wait. Have I broke things? No. Chris, come on. Be nice. Hey, wait a minute, Chris. Chris Parker from Rottweiler Performance, who brought out his 790 on the ride. Who was fixing your bike that day that we went riding? The media bike was perfect, but we were working on your bike, I remember. Let's see. When we were doing the Rottweiler dyno, huh? When are we doing the one at the Rottweiler dyno? I'm riding. I'm out riding. Sorry, I can't make it. Let's see. Jesse, you mentioned the XC and XCW having the same gear ratio. No. They do not have the same gear ratio. Why not make the XC tighter? It is. So I think what they said, and I could pull up these sheets, hold on, let me see if I can, let's see, this is XC. Let's see if there's anything about gear ratios in here. I didn't have time to read it. I just felt it. So yes, the gear ratios are different. I think it's first and second gear, if I'm not mistaken. I will verify that. But the first gear on the XCW, the 300 that I rode, is definitely lower. And I'll tell you how I know. Because every once in a while I made the mistake just out of habit to downshift into a turn, and I went into first gear, and it felt like I was throwing on the brakes. So when I did that on the 250 XC, the 250 XC, it did not do that because the gear was higher, and you could actually use first gear, where first gear on the 300 XCW was pretty much unusable. So so the ratios are different between the two bikes. So if we start talking about what's the difference between XC and XCW, probably the biggest thing for most people is the suspension. So XCW is PDS with the Explorer fork, and XC is the air fork with the linkage rear shock. So, one's definitely catered more towards single track trail riding, and the other one's catered more towards racing. The transmission ratio, so XCW, W stands for wide, and it has lower, and I'd have to check exactly what the gear ratios are, but we never got the chance to ride it up, and maybe fourth gear was the top gear we got in, and I pretty much just rode the whole thing in third gear, just left it in there and lugged it everywhere. So I didn't really get a chance to test the spread. That's why I like to take these bikes and use them for other purposes too, to see how they work. So those are the difference, but the engines are, other than the gear ratios, are the same, exactly the same between XC and XCW. 250 and 300, they're kind of the same bike. So hopefully that gives you stuff. Why not make the XC? It definitely, the gear ratios in XC feel more like a motocross gearbox, and I think I'd have to, like I said, check. I think they're first and second and third and fourth are more like the motocross bike, and then maybe fifth and sixth are a little bit wide, but don't quote me on that. I have to check the specs. So I think I've run through the majority of questions that I've handled here. Let's see. I think some other stuff. I don't know. Got any other questions there? How we doing? Anybody have any other burning questions? I had some other stuff pop up on our YouTube feeds. Let's see if I can go over there and dig those questions up. Probably not, because I'm horrible. I should have done show prep, but I was having dinner. So we'll see. Here we go. There's a bell. I got it. I got my questions up. So Nikki Shane asked about the KTM 1090. It says, I have a 2017 1090R, just got a front sprocket, a 16 tooth to replace the stock 17 tooth. Do you think it would be wise for me to try it, or am I just wasting my time and money? Well, you got the sprocket already. That's what it just said there. So I think just put it on and try it. On mine, I run a 2-tooth bigger rear sprocket, and in my world, 1 tooth on the counter shaft kind of equals 3 in the rear, so I'm kind of going in that same direction that you're going, maybe not to the same level of going down, but it makes first gear a little bit slower, easier to manage, more for technical stuff. So I think that's a good it's in the right direction. And the good thing when you do the counter shaft sprocket is usually you can adjust it out through the chain, so you don't have to break the chain or take a link out of the chain. Husky Hauler commented, I slip the clutch a lot on slow technical hill climbs to keep from stalling and keep the front end down. Is this wrong? to do this, I usually change my oil if I abuse the clutch all day. Yeah. Okay, so in my other job where I teach motorcycle riding skills and techniques, we teach that the clutch is not a power reducer. So a lot of times when you're slipping the clutch on a hill, you're reducing the power because you're not trusting the torque of the motorcycle. I would prefer that you be in the right gear, the clutch all the way out, and just use the torque of the motor. But what most people do is they're putting so much weight in the handlebars, they don't have the dexterity to control the throttle, so they shut the throttle all the way off, and especially on a 4-stroke, that's where the bike stalls. It stalls. But if you ever try it, and riding with a recluse clutch, which is actually slipping a lot of times at low speed anyways, it will teach you how much torque that motorcycle has, because it takes a lot for a recluse to really disengage. And then you start going, hey, my bike's not really going to stall. And then when I do get sloppy with it, it disengages so the bike doesn't stall. But I prefer to just be really careful with the throttle and just trust in the torque of the motorcycle. Don't shut the throttle all the way down. And then if it's really technical where you're going slower than the gear you're in, like you're going slower than first gear, at that point, of course, you have to slip the clutch. There's no way around it. But because the bike will stall or wants to go too fast. So you could always learn to ride faster, which I was demonstrated by all the guys that were riding way faster than me today. You can always do that, or just kind of, you can change the gearing of the bike, so it's easier, so you can let that clutch all the way out. But when the clutch is slipping, you think about a clutch is, it's gripping. It's like sandpaper. It's going to build heat. It's going to generate heat inside that motor. So most of the time when I see guys steaming their bikes over, it's not because they weren't moving, it's because they were slipping their clutch, so that causes problems. And if you change your oil afterwards, that's probably a good idea, because especially in a motor that uses the same oil inside the transmission as it does to lubricate your crank and your piston and your valves, having contaminated clutch material in there, which can happen. Usually your oil filter takes it out right away, but it can be spinning around in there for a little while, and that does bad things to your motor. So don't slip your clutch. That would be the answer for that. Mike Sampson commented, question, how about if you just put a slip-on exhaust and took out the restrictor, can you ride it like that? You wouldn't have to tune it right. Okay, Mike is asking about the Yamaha WR450 that we just we didn't put the video up yet. I know it's in the works. He was asking about, maybe there's a video. No, no. I'm sorry. Mike is asking about the Honda CR450. My eyesight, it's getting there. So, speaking of eyesight, so he's asking, how about if you just put a slip-on exhaust, took out the air restrictor, and ride it like that? Any of the emission-compliant bikes, when you just open up the pump, make it flow, they're going to be lean. They're designed to run in a very corked up state, so they don't run very well. They get kind of quick revving. Not a lot of power. They lose power, by the way. They kind of rev through the power quickly, and then they backfire a whole bunch on deceleration. So if you're going to do anything that lets more air in and lets more air out, you've got to at some point put more gas in the system. That's why these tuners and stuff are out there, all the different ignition settings. So you can't just, on any of these bikes, whether it's a KTM EXC or soon to come XCW or XCW, it's a tune system. So you have to, even if it's just a slip-on. So let's see. Would have you liked to? Okay, we have a question on the Honda Africa Twin. Moto the Road commented, would have liked to hear how you switched to manual mode. It needs cruise control. I am 6'2", 225. I don't want a bike that needs to have suspension adjustments because I'm over 200 pounds. Well, yeah, 6'2", 225. You're not that far out of the range, but you're different than most of their customers, obviously, or they would have set the suspension up for you. So that's the answer on that. So I'm 200 pounds and I kind of fit in the average range, maybe in the little bit on the heavier side of average range, but I don't feel like I have to adjust. Actually, I think the Honda Africa Twin has some of the best adventure bike suspension out there, standard. It's good. onto the it's just, you just push the button. There's some toggle button. You just scroll through the thing and you can turn it so that you can set it to almost manual mode, so that you're shifting with your thumb on the DCT bike. I don't know if it goes, it'll shift how you want it, with as long as you're within the RPM range. Like if you're at red line, it will not let you downshift. And if you're in 6th gear or 5th gear and you start slowing way down, it'll automatically downshift. It won't let you do stupid stuff on that bike. But it's just, I think it'll actually shift almost any time you can force a shift. Just sometimes it's a lot more willing to shift exactly when you want it to, in different modes, in different settings. So I don't think you can go to kind of straight pure manual mode, but you can make it so you can have it in the gear you want. I know, I don't remember because it's been a while since I rode the bike, but in like, especially in the off-road mode, you can easily force it to rev up a little bit more, to ride a gear lower. So if you imagine you were in 3rd gear and you wanted to be in 2nd, you push that button, it'll shift right down to 2nd, and maybe even sometimes 1st. And then it'd be revving, almost too much at that point, too high power. So, okay, One Dragon commented, I wish you would do a side-by-side comparison of the CR450X versus the CR450L, with the expectation that to change the exhaust with a full aftermarket system and a Vortex fuel map. I kind of want to do a comparison where I have someone pour my tequila for me, and I would wear a red shirt and he would wear a white. I mean, we can go down the roads of how you would modify and tune and change these bikes. I anticipate in the future I would love to do a 450X versus 450L. Unfortunately, we only had one of those bikes at a time. I actually do have a 450L. It's a customized bike right now, and I could kind of do that because I still have the X, but they're like slightly in different states. And if you change the exhaust, then you have to change the fueling, and you start tuning them, and you can get those bikes to run almost exactly the same. I would say the internal engine components are pretty stinking similar between those two motors, so you can get them to run the same however you choose to modify that bike. What you can't get away from, and some of the stuff, is the extra weight on the L, with the subframe and stuff. But I mean, if you really took your time, you could craft those bikes to mimic each other or do whatever you needed to do. They're basically the same. I mean, they come stock. They're definitely different. But as you start doing modifications and things, they sort of become the same. I don't know. It depends on where you're at. I mean, in some places, it's impossible to get a license plate for an X. So you have to start with an L if you need a license plate. And then I don't know why anybody in their right mind would try to turn the L into a dirt bike if you needed it, if you wanted only a dirt bike. I would just start straight with the X. But, there's definitely different needs, and I think that those are the different scenarios. But for a lot of times for us to go and do a comparison, when we start getting really detailed about exactly how you do it, like even when we do our project bikes, we always kind of take into mind, it's like, who are we building this for? If I'm building a bike for Jimmy, it's probably not going to be the same as if I was building it for someone else. I tend to like smoother power than most people. I tend to like to lug or torque bikes more than most people. So that's the beauty of all these modifications, that you can find something that works and tune it to your specifications. So do that. Tune your bike. But for us to kind of, every once in a while we get an idea and we just kind of run with it. But that's why you don't see us testing motocross bikes in off-road settings, because there's 100 different ways to do it, and you're starting with the wrong tool for the job. So we'd prefer to test off-road bikes in off-road settings and motocross bikes at motocross tracks, and then you can read into it, how does it work there, and would it transfer over, and make your own decisions. A lot of times people will bring us, it comes to mind, we've got a Husky 350 that we need to go pick up at Ride Engineering. Trevor, somebody go pick that up. It's built for a small guy. companies will bring us a modified bike or a project bike, and it's kind of cool to test them just to experience the different things. But a lot of times that bike's not set up for me specifically or for someone else specifically. It's just, hey, here's all of our stuff, and if I don't like it, that's not the person that built its fault. You know, it wasn't set up for me. I'm probably better off with a stock bike a lot of times. So that's kind of how how we test. It's not, most of the time they get a bike and everything on it makes it better. Oh, it's so much better. Blingy bling. Let's see. My feed seized. That's your problem. I'm surprised I have it. Man, look at all those happy faces coming up there. That's good. Thank you, guys. I wish those were dollar signs. So, Brap. Yeah, Brap. Ride it like you stole it. San Felipe Bob's in the house. He's obviously back from vacation. Let's see. He's way talkier than like 8 foot or way taller. Oh, we're talking about Radek. Hey, Radek, I heard some guys because they were talking KTM stuff down there. You know, you can't go back to that ultimate race, KTM ultimate race, because you won it, so you're banned. And there's guys coming for you. They're trying to build a better American team because they don't want to lose the title. Marco, how you doing, Marco? Hood ornament. Hey, Marco, check this out. This is my new GoPro Hero 7. Thank you, Marco, for hooking this up. I actually used it today. I shot video footage of me riding around the track, so it won't sound like someone's flushing the toilet while I'm riding, and it won't shake around, and I will get some videos up when I do this. But super stoked. Thank you. It was easy to use, and everybody's like, "Man, you have a GoPro? What'd you do? Win the lottery?" Yes, I won the lottery. So thanks, Margo. Let's see. Much better than watching when I was in the hospital. I was say she was riding off road. Watch out for side by side. Yes, ride right. That's what we say. Ride to the right side of the road. But sometimes UTVs are way too wide, and the drivers are bad drivers. So, that is not. Oh, that's not very good tequila. Yeah. Whew. Let's see. He picked up his KTM. We're talking about Radek, you should come. Actually, Radek, you should buy dirt bike test, first of all. And then you should come go trail riding, and then we'll just go trail riding, and then somebody else can run it. Where are you racing? Philip, I am at a WORCS round. I think they say it's round 7 of the WORCS series. They're doing this interesting thing where they're racing on Tuesday and Wednesday, taking a day off, and then they're having a race on Friday and Saturday again. So, but it's up in, they call it Grays Harbor, which used to be called Stratoline. So we're just kind of south of Seattle, a little bit outside of Olympia. It's for WORCS racing, it's tight trees and technical, although when they say single track, to me it's almost like quad width trail, so it's not real single track. It's definitely like more like Grand Prix racing. And I did a hour-long race today and a 30-minute practice in the morning. So that's where we're at, and I'm glad you like torque. I like torque too. Scott Cox, how you doing? San Felipe Bob has dollar signs, and Andre the Popsicle Man likes glory holes. Let's see. Mike Brown says bad on. I know. I should have known. Actually, right here. What's Chavo mean? It's got a skull on it. It's got a prickly bush, which is probably agave, and malo, bad. It's a marketing operation that's bottling turpentine, as far as I'm concerned. But I gotta get through it. So, cheers. Let's see. Lacquer thinner. Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna go fix this. I gotta quench that taste out. I'll be right back. It's not a long walk to the bar here. So how about this? That'll fix that problem. First, let me get rid of it. Okay, so we'll go with some Casa Souza 100 Anos. So, any other questions? That's Scotch. Okay, I'm trying to learn something here too. So, what do I really think of the bike? Man, I'm kind of impressed. I mean, it's KTM, like every few years, like changes their bikes, which is amazing, because it's a lot of time in R&D and development. And they did listen to what the customers were saying, especially here in the United States. They wanted a more aggressive, snappier power. I won't call it snappy. I mean, in KTM's world, I think they kind of stepped out of their comfort zone to make the bike in the aggressive map as, quote, aggressive as it is. So, I mean, they're just all about rideability and drivability with all the testing that they do over there. And I think it's a little more exciting. I think when you see the SX finally go to fuel injection, that's when they'll have really totally figured it out and got it all dialed. But I mean, especially when you start going more into the single track and trail riding side, I love the fuel injector. I love TPI, just like I liked it on 4-strokes right away, even when everybody was complaining because it didn't have enough snap and hit. I think they're onto something. The chassis, it feels lighter than the old one. I mean, by kind of another step, a noticeable step. For me, that's a huge thing, because the bike already felt ridiculously light. And especially on the PDS bike, the XEW, the fact that it doesn't dance, it's that light and it doesn't have that dancey feeling. And I'll really get a chance to kind of feel it a little bit more tomorrow when I ride the 150, because that bike is another 7 or 8 pounds lighter. But I think the scale weight on the XEW was like 224 with a little bit of gas in it. And that was off of they measured one. It's not the number that they put inside the book, although I think it's actually pretty accurate. So, liked it. I mean, totally stock suspension. I didn't really want to change clickers. All I did was adjusted the brake pedal to my liking, tuned kind of where the lever position was a little bit, and had 12 pounds of air pressure in the tires and sent it. And it was all good. So, Google says it means bad guy. Bad Chavo as a bad guy? Yeah, that's perfect description of that tequila. It's a bad guy. So, okay. Did you podium? You kidding? I slayed it. I took the overall. That's the only way you do it, Bob. Come on. So, okay. Good on you. Unless there's any other questions, we're getting down to our 8-minute warning here. I've got to sit down and actually I need to go get my photos somehow or another, which I forgot to get because I was more worried about doing my podcast. And then I can write a story, which I'll put up on Dirt Bike Test as soon as I can. Maybe I'll just go straight to doing a video. Tomorrow I get to ride in the morning, hang out, watch my buddy Andrew Short go out and chase everybody down in the pro race. Man, those guys, they're going so stinking fast. It's nuts. I mean, to see, to kind of watch how fast these guys go. I mean, I think in their practice today, or their time qualifying, they rode the exact same courses we did. I went out and did a lap to test another bike when they were riding, and they were on the exact same course as us. And I think that lap time wise, they were like 3 or 4 minutes faster around the lap than I was. And I mean, I can see 2 minutes easy, but 4, it's ridiculous to see how fast they're going and in that terrain, which is amazing. So pretty cool. Let's see, any other. Do a Facebook Live tomorrow with Andrew. No, because I have to give back the internet unit thing that I'm using. He gets Bad Young Fellow. Victor would know. Bad Young Fellow. Yeah, it's a silver, so it is a young fellow. Let's see. Okay. Any other questions? I'll do a Facebook Live. No, I can't. So I can't do a Facebook Live tomorrow with Andrew because he's a professional racer. I'm going to try to talk him into going trail riding with me on Thursday, but we'll see what happens. It's logistical nightmares around here, and I will get back to you with other posts. Share this podcast. Actually, it's going to be a podcast pretty soon. I'm working on that in the background, so you can just listen to it. You don't have to see me hop around and pour bad tequila down my throat. So when we get that up, I'll put it on Dirt Bike Test. Go to Dirt Bike Test, look at our stories, tell your friends about it, make this thing grow. If it grows, then I get to keep doing it, and if not, I'm just going to go trail riding. Either way, it's up to you, not me. Actually, it is up to me a little bit, but tell Radek that Pink Bike needs to buy this thing. So before I knock my table over, I'm going to have my last little cheers, and thanks for pushing this while you're riding and racing. Yeah, thanks, Mark. I'm doing the best. On the Honda Africa Twin DCT is a straight manual button so you can paddle shift between first and sixth. There you go, Bob. Thank you. There's too many bikes in my head. I don't have enough memory cells because there's only 2 of those brain cells left in here. I was going to show you my new lid, but you can look on my Facebook post for that, and we'll see that. So I'm going to sign up. There's no after show for this one. And JB, thanks for the stickers, and the lid looks super sweet. Oh, wait. Oh, YZ450F slow start info. Now the questions start popping. I say I'm going to quit, and you start dumping questions on them. Canoe. I can't say names or remember them or anything. So I had Trevor ask the Yamaha guys about the slow starting, because the WR is the same way, and I wish I would have bitched about it a little bit more when we did our video thing the other day, but because other people asked, they said that's the way it is, and I'm not kidding. They just said that's the way it is. So what I know is that if you put a battery with a little more amperage and stuff in there, it spins a little faster and it starts a little bit better. But you have to understand, that's a Mikuni FI system. It's not the Kian one that we're so used to. And like the KTM is using Del Ordo on the throttle body for the two-stroke. So there's different systems. I don't know if it's a characteristic, because since the FX and the WR both do it, I don't know if it's a characteristic of the Mikuni system that maybe it's just a little slow to fire. Just, and I've tried tuning it with the power tuner to dump a little more fuel or to lean the fuel off at zero throttle, low throttle position, low RPM to try to counteract it, but I'm sure it's on its own dedicated start map at that point, but I have not been able to solve it either. But if you can get the battery to spin it over a little bit quicker, that seems to help, and definitely no throttle. If you turn the throttle, it doesn't like it at all in my experience. So that's the answer to that one. You just lost one with the yeah, with the bad boy. Come race Donner. I'm done racing. I quit. I'm not. Well, tomorrow I'm going to race that one, and then I'm not going to race anymore because I don't race. So I ride races. That's all I did today. I just went riding today. So I just happened to be during a race, and I actually did okay. So, but I yelled at some guy. I yelled at a lot of people when I was lapping them. That's what I do. I throw revs. I yell usually, and then start throwing revs, and then like one guy got kind of pissy because he wouldn't get out of the way, and he was so pissed he actually swerved into me and blocked me between a tree, and it's not. I hate doing that. I mean, I don't like to be that guy. I don't like to be an ass and stuff, and so that's like all behind me. So sorry to that guy. He was on a Yamaha, probably a nice guy, but so no more racing for Jimmy. Like, at least not racing. I can go riding. If it's a really awesome race, I can go riding. So we'll see it. Thank you guys all for tuning in. It looks like we've answered all the questions. If you have more questions, save them for next week or attach them to the YouTube videos. We usually go there and pull the questions off and answer them. And if your friends missed it, you could say, hey, go to Dirt Bike Test and look at it there, because there's a YouTube video and everything else. So now that I've said things 6 or 7 times, I'm shutting down the computer. I'm having my last shot of tequila. And then I'm going to go do a blood transfusion and, get all my stuff so I can ride tomorrow. So with that, we will see you out on the trail. Cheers.